Hi everybody, and welcome to this special live call here on QPW, and really what is going to be a special mini live version of the Quantum Compass from myself and my partner Bella. So my name is David, and Bella, you want to say hello to everybody too?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the new people and welcome to those that have been with us for a while. It's great to see the tribe growing and more people interested in the Mayan information, in the astrology, in the plants, all being part of the same thing. We're all here for the evolution of humanity, and that's what we're all doing. It's so good that you guys are resonating with our info.
Yeah, I wish to echo that. It's really good to see so many people here because, as I said before we hit record earlier, and I'm going to repeat a few things I said again now, this is what we are perceiving as a very important moment in the process of ascension, evolution, however you want to look at this. We have different language we use a little bit sometimes, maybe some of which we'll use today as we try to educate ourselves and all of our brothers and sisters in what this great shift actually might be about. Because I think that we've got to a point where silly season is kicking in strongly, particularly in recent events in Europe over the last few days, particularly in my own country. You've had a change of government, and probably that's going to happen in quite a few countries. So we're entering into a period where things are going to change, partly because the old system dictates that, but also I feel mostly because the astrology and the incredible amount of light coming onto the planet are also pushing that too. So I just want to preface what we're going to share today with some perceptions from the last 2 weeks, which I would say have been a little bit challenging. The solstice is an incredibly powerful moment of the light, but in order to get to solstice, we also have to pass over the star Polaris, which by its very name and definition indicates polarity. So I feel that solstice can often be a little bit infused with this. And anyone who's watched the St. John's Wort video that myself and the brother Pete did, one of the things that we realized about St. John's Wort is that it's able to hold us through this period when we have so much light coming into our fields. Because what can happen when there's so much light? Well, any density in the field gets forced up and out. Now, in the past, I would suggest that we had more mechanisms, or the system provided more mechanisms for us to be able to share our toxicity. However, now what I'm seeing is that the toxicity has nowhere to go except up and out. So how we deal with that ourselves is down to ourselves. How we deal with other people's toxicity coming out is also down to them, but we also need to learn how to have our firm boundaries. So I just wanted to preface today's call with that, because I'm sure and love to hear from some of you later in the call how you've been experiencing the last few weeks, but also what that means in terms of preparation for what's about to come next in the second half of 2024 and then on into early 25. So we're going to be giving a little bit of an overview, right, Bella, today on the end of the Tzolkin, which is coming up in a few days, and the beginning of the new one, and then also look at some of the astrology and put a few pieces together. So that said, where are we going to start today, Bella?
Well, do you want to start with the astrology or the Mayan stuff?
Let's start with the Mayan stuff, because I feel like it's more like the big click that's about to happen. And I'll start to drop in some of the astrology that I think is worth having in our awareness moving forwards.
Good. Okay. Good. So welcome, everybody. We are in the middle of a very important reset. I feel that it's not only about a new Tzolkin, which is starting on the 8th of July. We are also aligned with Sirius right now, which is the star that is the Pyramid of Chichen Itza. It's also aligned with Sirius. So a lot of the Mayan information has to do with Sirius and with the Pleiades. So that is part of the bigger clock that we are aligned with. And that is why it's so important that we recover part of this way of keeping track of time, which is more natural and more connected to the stars as well. So a new cycle of 260 days is starting on the 8th of July. The first glyph is the red dragon. So it's a whole new wave spell. And it's also a whole new cycle of castles. So as you know, in 260 days, we have 5 castles, and each castle contains 4 wave spells. So we are about to start here with the red one and with the red dragon. And the red is the one that is connected to the east. The white castle is connected to the north, the blue to the west, the yellow to the south, and the green is in the center. So we're just finishing the one in the center, and we're going to start again the cycle. And on the 25th of July, which is coming up very soon, we're also going to have the reset of the moon calendar. So on that day, we're hoping to be in Teotihuacan, which is called the place of the gods, is where we started this journey last year as well. Davyd and I went to Tula and Teotihuacan on the day out of time, both days. We hadn't planned it whatsoever, but we started there. And then a lot of things have happened for us in the last year. So we are being called back there for this 25th of July. There will be lots of people from all over the world, people that follow Jose Argüelles and the Galactic Calendar. Many of these people come here to Teotihuacan as well. And it's a day where we're going to celebrate peace, and we do this through connecting with culture, with art. It's a day for forgiveness and for synchronizing heaven and earth. So we hope to see lots of people there. Hopefully some of you will get to join us. And it's a day where there is that great pulse that reconnects us also to Sirius and to, it's like the restart, the synchronization moment. So I've been doing a lot of research about the Venus connection and the calendar, and I hope to present that very soon again. But right now, in the middle of this, today we are aligned with Sirius. So today we are restarting this process of, okay, we understand that there is a bigger clock that reconnects us also to Alcyon in the Pleiades and also to the central sun. So today is a very good day. It's a new moon of intentions. It actually happened last night, but we're still in the energy of this new moon in Cancer. So it's a very good moment to understand that time is a series of cycles, and it's connected to the Fibonacci sequence, which is number 13 is a key number as part of that. Number 5 is also a very key number in that frequency. So I want us to start thinking more about that. I go very deep into this in the course, but today I just want us to understand that there is a Sirius. There is a cycle with Sirius, which is every 52 years we realign with it, and every 104 years Venus is also coming to be realigned with us and with Sirius. So we're all connected, especially Sirius and Venus. And we're going to share a video from Maya, who's a new friend of ours. And I think Jody is in the call. Jody introduced us to Maya, and she has amazing videos about this as well, about how Venus is the guardian of the Earth. And I'd like to call it also the twin planet with the Earth, because we are very connected. And I'm going to talk more about that in the future. So we're also starting a new cycle of 13 moons on the 26th of July. The very first moon is called the moon of the bat, but it's also called the magnetic moon. So you want to bring a new purpose. So in July, lots of things happening, starting today with this new moon in Cancer. So on the 8th, we start the new Tzolkin. On the 26th, we start the new series of moons, which is going to be 13 moons of 28 days. And also the energy of the whole year is going to be the energy of the blue storm. And if you are familiar with the energy of the storm, I know I am because I have it in my oracle, it's all about big changes, but also rejuvenation. So you can reconnect with the power of that inner light inside you and move with it. So it's a way of moving forward, like with the energy of Uranus. It's a very similar energy. You move forward with it. If you know how to use it, it can be rejuvenating, it can be regenerating, and then reconnect with that more multidimensional experience of time through these energies. So the whole year is going to be called the year of the blue rhythmic storm. So if you have that glyph anywhere, you can work better with it if you're conscious of what you can do with it. It's basically about generating greater balance in your daily journey, your daily life. So that's pretty much up to what we have for the new calendar. Do you want to add anything, Davyd, before we go into the... You're muted.
Yeah, sorry, I was just scanning for an astrological chart as you were saying that in the background, so my
Okay.
button was on mute.
So yeah, so next year, which is coming on the starting on the 26th of July until the next, it finishes on the 24th of July of 2025. And it's all about catalyzing energy for change and renewal. So we're still in a very catalyzing energy for a whole year.
Right. So yeah, thank you, Bella, for that. Really, I think useful and mini overview there of the energies that we've been working with and what is coming ahead of us. And for those of you that have been following us for a while, or even from the QPH days doing the immersions, and those of you who are coming into this new, a lot of what myself and Bella are trying to show and teach and live by ourselves is working in fractal organic time as a way of counter poising the energies of the old matrix, the old paradigm, and the incoherent time system of the Gregorian calendar. So we perceive that one of the big shifts that's necessary to actually really break the spells of the matrix is to start shifting away from the Gregorian calendar, which seems to be intrinsically linked to it. So a lot of what we're sharing is really about how to come into a coherent sense of time for yourself in the now, right, Bella? And that's a lot of what we're going to be sharing moving forward. So with that in mind, I just want to share some of the bigger astrological movements that are happening in the second half of this year. And as me and Bella were saying on our 13th episode of the Quantum Compass, the first half of 2024 was literally packed with super powerful conjunctions, particularly in Aries, Taurus, and then somewhat in Gemini, because all of the planets were bunched together all on top of each other. Now, with the different speeds of the inner and outer planets, they are now starting to separate out. And for the first time, really, let me just add a few people there. For the first time, really, over the course of this year, what myself and other astrologers are seeing is that we actually don't have any really tough transits. The only thing that's really going on in the background that I would suggest is that Pluto is still kind of active around that 1 degree of Aquarius. So for anyone who's got anything in degrees, sort of from 28 to 2 degrees of those related signs is probably going to be feeling that. So anything in Aries and, sorry, not in Aries. Oh, no, I've got too many people coming at me. So anyone basically being affected by Pluto is going to be experiencing that retrograde that's going back into Capricorn until later this year, when it then re-enters back into Aquarius on November the 19th. Now, the good thing about this Pluto ingress back into Capricorn is it's only short. So at the moment, what we're seeing is that Pluto is swinging over these first 2 degrees of Aquarius and has been for a little while. So this is bringing up, I think, or has been bringing up many issues around the Aquarian age and what we can expect moving into that. So that definitely involves AI, definitely involves tech. I would suggest it also involves higher mind thinking. But perhaps also possibly connections with extraterrestrials. Far out as that may have sounded a few years ago, it's something that's very much in many people's awareness, particularly ahead of the upcoming July 15th date. Now, I'm not sure what to make of all of that. We're all going to have our own opinions, so I don't want to go too much into the rabbit hole there. And I will be looking a little bit at that July 15th date in a minute, because I think it's really important. However, I also just want to pick up on the other movements happening. Neptune has gone retrograde at 29 degrees of Pisces, and Saturn also around 19. So those two planets are going to be moving backwards for pretty much the rest of this year, give or take a bit. So what does that mean? Well, as we shared in the previous Quantum Compass episodes, it really means a time for introspection and reviewing, particularly reviewing time with the father of time, Kronos or Saturn, but also I think reviewing illusion, mysticism, trickery, health issues, all of which is Neptune's forte, particularly in Pisces. So things can get a little watery and a little difficult to discern. And I think that we're now entering into a process where hopefully we're going to start to see more authentic disclosure. However, I think that one of the things that many of us have realized over the course of this year is that it's getting very hard to tell if anything that's being presented to us is actually the truth. So we're, I think, moving into a period where inner discernment is going to be vital, and going on what you feel rather than perhaps what you're hearing or seeing, I think, and I'm going to allude to this again in relation to July the 15th, is going to be super important. We can be tricked by our oral and visual senses. However, it's very difficult to trick our body medicine. So lots of introspection. And what else do I want to talk about? We do have 2 more Mercury retrogrades coming up August the 5th to the 29th, from 4 degrees of Virgo back to 21 of Leo. And then November the 26th to December the 16th from 22 degrees of Sag to 6 degrees of Sag.
Recording in progress.
We've got some feedback from some people. Please do hit mute. Mercury retrograde, gets a bit of a bad rep, but I think like most retrogrades, honestly, folks, they're a really, really good opportunity to review stuff. And maybe sometimes in the reviewing, things come up that are not super easy to look at, but they are important. Anything that hasn't been looked at, any of our so-called shadow or density energies, because of the amount of light that is coming onto the planet, and many people say now that we're at the peak of that light in this moment on this solar cycle, the chances of stuff coming up is very, very high. And speaking from my own experience, what I found is easier is to watch the stuff come up, don't get involved in your own emotional stuff, but to then sort of take off to the eagle's perch perspective and observe yourself in your behavior and your patterns and try to discern why certain things may be happening for you. And I think the more that we do that, the easier it becomes and the quicker the release is. Bella, do you have anything you wish to add at this point?
Yes, I want to mention also Saturn, because remember that this is the month of that 2 full moons in Saturn. We're doing the lunar reversal. So that's also happening. And I feel that Saturn is still the protagonist and is telling us to create the reality that you want. So it's really emphasizing that get real, get rid of what doesn't work anymore and start building from there. Like what doesn't work really needs to be seen and dealt with, because we've been forced to wake up, and forced evolution has been the theme for a few months, and I think it will continue to be until Neptune moves into Aries, which is going to give us that new sense of autonomy and leadership from within. So we're building up to that process, and I think that the rest of the year is going to take us to that moment. I also wanted to mention the T-square with the lunar nodes, which is part of all of these cosmic landscape. Also, Chiron has been very important. We know, obviously, that Chiron is all connected to our wounds and is the greatest teacher. But remember that we had that solar eclipse in Aries in April. So every time that any aspect actually square that Chiron, actually bring back a little bit more of, okay, what needs fixing, what needs adjusting? Because we did switch to a new cuboid, to a new energy, to a new timeline since April with that eclipse. But there are final adjustments that Chiron is going to be reminding us to do, like those little bits where you still need to be honest with yourself and do that final transmutation or that final shift. It's more about tuning, I think, attunement more than anything.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Bella. I just want to echo those thoughts. And when we were doing the Quantum Compass show for this incoming wave spell of the Red Magnetic Dragon that starts in 2 days' time, I think, on Monday. What was very clear was that we're starting the year we've had any of these big bang conjunctions, but a whole bunch of really, really sweet trines and sextile transits, which are much more supportive to the processes, and in particularly with the positions that they've got, which I'll talk more about in that show. Supportive to inwards reflection, creative ideas, long-term planning, and basically building from the ground up, which I would suggest to all of you here and anyone watching this is the theme of the second half of 2024. Now, this is not the scope of today's call to get into what is going on in the big screen, the narrative, the collective story. However, what I would like to share is that from where I'm seeing things, it looks as if the job is basically done in terms of the removal of the big toxic beings that were overseeing this planet as a slave colony, or however you want to look at all of that. Those guys have been removed for a while. What we're really dealing with now, I think, is human personal toxicity and responsibility. And for sure, there's going to be a lot of people squirming, I think, in the second half of 2024 as the masses start to realize what has happened over the last 4 years. And I think that we're very close to a lot of that. So keeping ourselves centered and grounded. We may have our own opinions about all of these things. I would definitely suggest that it's okay to have those opinions, but perhaps not to get too vocal or involved in other people's perceptions, because then what happens is we get involved in other people's stuff, which can be a little challenging. So again, taking that eagle's perch perspective. Also, just want to flag up the ingress of Jupiter into Gemini, which happened a little while back, but is going to continue throughout the rest of this year. And that's also about intellectual growth, about curiosity, diversity of experience, and also a chance to broaden our horizons and to travel. So definitely feeling that we are heading into a period of possibility and opportunity. Not necessarily the most easiest period to do this. You know, at the collapse of any system or epoch, there's always going to be a little bit of chaos. But this is the good news, and this is what me and Bella have been showing in the navigation guide. In fact, in chapter 2 of the navigation guide, which is how to work with the polarizing energies as a catalyst. We can even use our own polarity in certain situations, again, taking Eagle's perch perspective, to rise above what is polarizing us, to find a resolution to it and use the release of that energy as the activating force for a project, a plan, a dream, or a vision. So what I love about this is that there's nothing bad. Everything is useful. Everything is fuel. Everything is a possibility for expansion and growth. And I think the more of us that can have this in our awareness and even transmitting that idea through our own actions, our own thoughts, our own words into the collective, the quicker we are going to move as a collective through the process. What I'm sensing from my own guides and from other guides that I follow, or even we spoke to Zach yesterday, we'll share more about that in a while too, is that generally what I'm feeling is that the guides have pulled back. And the message that I sort of have been receiving is we've done everything we can for you now. We've cleared the space. The astral planes are as clear as I've ever seen them in my entire life. However, the rest is up to you. You need to see for yourselves the illusion of what is being presented, not buy into it, not succumb to the 4D emotional manipulations, but to rise above it yourself and declare sovereignty for yourself. And I think that is why maybe some of the helpers, it's not that they've gone away and they're not willing to share information, but they can't step in and help us. We need to do it ourselves. Sovereignty is something of an initiation for ourselves. So
the message from Zach yesterday was that we are in the cusp of the new, of the unknown. So it may feel like we're a little unsettled because we're in that transition period, waiting for things to happen. So the message was just keep on going because things are about to switch. Everything that was super heavy, dense, and dark on the bigger scene has been dealt with, but now it's down to each one of us to deal with those final bits and pieces that need to be put into balance. And this is what the year of the blue storm is going to help us do. If you're able to go into your inner work and find that balance within yourself so that we have the energy to move forward and see this through for next year.
Right, so maybe I'll just take this opportunity briefly just to mention the fact that, yes, we had a call with Janet, our friend, and Zach, the 26th dimensional ascended aspect to our call. And we talked to him about a few personal things and various other bits and pieces, but we have recorded a 23-minute segment, which I'm going to post a link to in the chat box here, with Zach talking about a little bit about the path of the Jaguar, but also about Mayan time and how to navigate these upcoming periods. So I'll put the link in there. Please do check that out. Probably in the edited version, we're going to add the video in here, but then probably make it available separately on YouTube too. So please do check that out. As always with Zach, lots of interesting tidbits of information and also a lot to work with. So the thing that I just want to draw attention to now and talk about a little bit is what's coming up on July the 15th. So just bear with me while I see if I can get my screen share to work and just pull up this chart a little bit. Can we see that, guys? Is the chart on the...
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so really, this is, I think, the most combustible moment that is left in this part of the year. Sure, lots of reflection, lots of retrograde motions. I think the piece with Pluto and Capricorn is probably going to bring the house down in its entirety. However, we still have quite a number of months between here and there. And what is going to happen during that period, I think, is the big spectacular grand finale, which we all signed up for eons ago. We're obviously all front row devotees with our buckets of popcorn and hot chocolates and whatever else for this show. And so I'm hoping that Spirit doesn't disappoint us all with some kind of spectacular finale. How we navigate all of that is up to us. But all humor aside, when I see Mars conjuncting Uranus in Taurus, I'm like, that's pretty combustible. But then when I lay underneath that the fixed star, the supposed demonic star of Algol, on that conjunction, what I'm really getting is a very combustible mix. Now, our friend and sister Leslie Shankman from the Stellar Nations Pathway couldn't join us this morning, but me and her have been looking at this particular conjunction and hope to do something around it for the Cosmic History Code soon. And we also plan to share more about the great felines and the dragons. So for those of you that are following Stellar Nations Pathways, the great felines and the dragons are a big part of this year and going to be a big part of the Path of the Jaguar as well. So, can somebody's unmuted themselves? Can we just check our mics there and mute again, please? So what does it all mean? Well, I did some deep diving yesterday with a number of different people that I follow, and those of you that have seen our calls for a while, we often reference Jean Nolan from Inspired TV. He always has a good take on things. I respect his opinion. And he had been watching somebody else that we watch, which is Jean-Claude from Beyond Mystic, who does a great series of you can say TV programs really on YouTube and Rumble with his friend Janine, who does Tarot by Janine. So those are some of the people that we watch. But the reason I'm flagging that up right now is because they've been looking at a series of material from Cliff High's webbot data and also a bunch of remote viewers who've been looking at this July the 15th date as a possible date for an occurrence. Let's just call it that, an event. What does it really mean? Well, we're not sure, but what we are suggesting is probably the same as what those guys are suggesting, which is just to keep a calm head. There may be some kind of appearance of something, but Uranus is all about unexpected moments. Mars is also about fiery energy. It is, I think, being dampened down a bit by Taurus, but then we have this influence of Algol in the background. Now, from what I understand, the situation with Algol needing to be resolved was actually resolved a little while ago. So we don't really have to worry about that too much. But I think if we are looking for a change situation in the collective, my hunch is that it's probably going to be initiated around this point. Maybe not exactly on July the 15th, but Mars and Uranus combined is going to create something. So not sure exactly what to expect, but just putting it in all of your awareness to be aware around those days. Mars is often a little fiery. We've got lots of reasons for people to be upset at the moment, lots of protests hanging in the air. Even today in Britain, our new Prime Minister is dealing with a bunch of protests on an issue that he's not very comfortable with. And I think we're going to see a lot of that during the second half of 2024 is uncomfortable situations for politicians to have to explain their way through, which probably is a good thing. So that's kind of like the overview. Bella, do you have anything you wish to add on that Mars?
No.
So so that's it really for the preview piece, I guess. Perhaps we can take a few questions now. Does anybody have any questions? We do have some more to share, right, Bella? But I just want to see if anyone has anything flagged up. So let me just stop sharing the screen. Please do use the hand wave if anybody has any questions on anything that we've shared so far. Really? No questions? Okay.
Okay, I'll share the rest of the presentation then.
Okay.
Good. So where were we? Just a reminder here, this year of the Blue Storm then is going to be a time to welcome the next level of evolutionary waves of transformation and regeneration. So everything to do with regeneration, alchemical powers, storm and thunder to purify is part of this new year, the Blue Storm. And this is a big surprise. Now that Davyd is doing better, his recovery is going real well. We've been called to start the wave spell of the Jaguar, or the White Wizard, on the 21st of July, which is just around the corner, with a QPW expedition, which is called the Path of the Jaguar. So the felines are calling us, and they are calling us to go around some sacred sites of Mexico, starting in Toluca with this site called Calixtlahuaca. Then we head towards Cuernavaca, and we go to a site called Teopanzolco, and then we continue towards Teotihuacan, which is where we want to be for the 25th of July, which is the day out of time. And whether you can join us in person or online, we'd love for you to be connected on the day out of time. As I said before, it's a day of reconnecting with forgiveness, with peace, with evolution, with everything that we're dreaming about. And the more of us that are doing it from the heart, the better. Is the day that you do the rainbow meditation from your heart. You visualize a rainbow bridge, a rainbow light around your body and around the whole planet. And there are thousands of people that do it. So it would be beautiful if you can join us. Then we continue towards Puebla to a site called Jowalichan, which is the one on the picture. It's absolutely amazing. It looks so amazing. Then we continue to Veracruz, El Tajín, to the Pyramid of Los Nichos, which I talked about in the Mayan course. Is the one that has it. The 364 little gaps. So all of those sites are like calendars on itself. They follow the movements and the calendars that we've been talking about. Then we continue to Tula, Querétaro, and back to Michoacán, to the beautiful side of Sinsunsan, which means the place of the hummingbirds. And this site is very special because it's of a different group of indigenous people called the Purepecha. And these sites are yacatas. They don't look like the traditional pyramids, but they are round pyramids, and that's why they are called yacatas. We'll talk more about it. So part of this expedition is to show you more about what we are finding and what we have done before, but we haven't shared, but how we're reconnecting this grid, which is all connected to reclaiming time, reclaiming a new time for humanity, reconnecting the grid. So the Jaguar is going to be the star of this journey. It's also called the White Wizard. It's a wave spell where we reconnect with our inner shaman, with our wizard self, with the night seer, with the spiritual realms. And the big intention is to break the spell of artificial time. So this is a mission, Davyd and I, it's only a small mission we're embarking now that Davyd is being able to work. So we decided to go for it. Why not? Hopefully many of you will join us on this. And so these are some of the places we've already visited. We've been to Teotihuacan, Tula, and we've been getting lots of downloads and understanding and being activated ourselves. And that's part of the mission that we will continue to do in this expedition called the Path of the Jaguar. And there will be another one. There will be an expedition part 2 towards the end of the year, which is going to be pretty exciting as well. And some of the plants will come along with us. The one that wanted to come first was vervain, and also dandelion and oak. So we're going to have 3 amazing plants to be part of this. We're not going to call it immersion, it's an expedition. So we're taking it to the next level, more Indiana Jones. And Indiana Jones meets the alchemy of the plants. So Davyd, do you want to talk a little bit about vervain?
Yeah, I'll come to vervain in a second if I can. I just want to add a bit to what you were saying. So this is really a continuation of, as Bella just said, work that we were doing last year. For those of you that were with us on the Quest of the Quantum Heart, that was part of the journey that we did to Teotihuacan during that journey. And so the sites that we are going to outside of Tula and Teotihuacan itself and the Pyramid of the Niches are not so well known. But what we are discovering ourselves is that central Mexico is littered with pyramid sites that are not super well known. In fact, there's hundreds of them all over the place. And yet people tend to think mostly about Teotihuacan, Tula, and the Yucatan. So part of our personal mission, you can say, but also collectively working with the energy of the Earth grid, is to reconnect those points where the nodal points have been inverted or they've got moved. And so this is part of the work that we've been doing and have been guided to go back and complete. But with the day out of time so important for this kind of resetting, we definitely got the call to go back to Teotihuacan for a second year in a row to do that. And for me personally, it's a little daunting. I am now walking. For any of you who managed to catch a little update video I put out this week, my progress is now rapidly increasing. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been blessed enough to have a physiotherapist, a wonderful local lady who's part physio, part curandera, who's come in and magically brought my feet back to life, because after not really moving for 3 months, the muscles are pretty much gone to sleep. So the heels themselves that were so badly damaged are feeling great. And I'm now able to walk around a little bit, but I've got 2 weeks to be able to not just be walk around a little bit, but be able to walk at a pyramid site. So I've set myself quite an aggressive target, but what I've seen over the last month really is that that's working well for me. So please do check out that video. I want to say a heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you, because I'm pretty sure that all of you have contributed in some way to my healing process. And as me and Bella were talking about just recently, I'm literally overwhelmed with the amount of help that I've had over the last 4 months, and many of the brothers and sisters here on the call have contributed in many different ways. So thank you to all of you for that support, because I really would not be at this place I am today if it wasn't for all of that help. And of course, I want to thank my beautiful partner, Bella, for all of her help, both here on the ground, energetically and emotionally supporting me through this process, because it's not been easy, but it's been made a lot easier by everybody's support. So thank you, everybody. So, yeah, we're going to share images of the sites we're going to go to. We will post those probably on the information page for the Path of the Jaguar. So probably some of you are thinking, well, that's great, you know, a visit to various pyramid sites. We would love to invite all of you who are able to make it to any one of those sites and any one of those days to join us. We're not organizing a trip per se, so, you know, things like accommodation and travel would have to be organized by yourself, but we are going to post our itinerary where we're going to be. We do intend to do live recordings on site as part of our new approach to doing things, and to tell a story, decoding as best we can as we move through the sites, and really tuning into what is the story of the white wizard that wants to come through. And this is really one of the major things that I've learned during my period of meditation and convalescing, particularly for the first 2 months after returned home from the operation, was I was deep into the Mayan time. Every single day I was reading the glyphs, I was feeling them. And even though I wasn't really moving anywhere, I was able to move through the different wave spells with a real sense of purpose, and to understand that every moment is important, every day is important. And when you're operating in these 13-day wave spells or bigger cycles like Bella shares, you're able to start feeling the flow, not just of the 13 days, but after a while, the flow of the glyphs themselves. So transitioning from, say, example, the white wind to the blue eagle was really palpable, especially because during the white wind, which is all about communication, we had Mercury in Gemini. So we had this very, very strong energy of communication, which was, for me anyway, a little difficult to handle at times. But then we moved into the energy of the blue eagle, which is much more 5D, more non-dual, more light, more elevated, we can say. And then those issues that have been coming up during the white wind were able to be more easily resolved. So we can start to see how we move through from one energy of one way spell to the next. And, you know, we're going to be working with this energy of the white wizard and the jaguar for the journey itself. But before that, we also have the first wave spell of the year, the red magnetic dragon, which maybe you want to share a little bit about in a minute, Bella, although we've also already talked about it in Quantum Compass. So to come to the plant, vervain, well, for me, vervain has always been the white wizard, actually, often associated with Venus energy, so often attributed to being more feminine. I've always found the energy of this plant to be a little more masculine, a kind of a counterbalance, you can say, to the energies of, say, elder or mugwort, the more witchy sister plants, we can say. But this plant wanted to step forward immediately. It's one that's actually been in me and Pete's awareness for a while, and we've been meaning to talk about. And so this is a new plant for us to work with. It's very, very powerful, and we're going to be sharing more about this throughout the journey. So that's the major plant. The two supporting allies from the plant kingdom are going to be oak and dandelion, because they are the time traveling plants. And I'm sure many of you have come to know and love the energies of both of those beings strongly. And as we approach on the other side of this wave spell and this expedition, the Lion's Gate portal, for any of you who remember the dandelion immersion, we had a whole piece about the kind of great feline Syrian energy of dandelion as a being, and how deeply connected he is to the winged lions, the high leadership energies of the lion energies, and the great felines in general. So dandelion is a much more personal plant to help you understand synchronicity, to bring you into the present moment, which is the only thing that truly exists. But from the present moment, and this is something I'm going to be teaching more about during the 13 days of the Path of the Jaguar, is how to be in the present moment and put your attention into the past, and how to put it into the future. Because even in this moment, technically, we're in the future from our past selves. So when we do soul retrievals into our past, we're actually coming from the future for that part of ourself. So going to be sharing a lot more about this kind of head-bending, time traveling stuff in various teaching segments throughout the course of the 13 days. And that is really one of the major components that we're going to be sharing with the help of Dandelion, with the help of Oak, with the help of Vervain, with the help of the Mayan ancestors and any other ancestors and beings that want to step in and help, is how to be multidimensional in any given moment by having the ability to fix your awareness and consciousness into different perspectives of time or even different aspects of realities. Now, it's not as difficult as it sounds. It just requires you to be present most of the time. So, yeah, thank you, Bella, for the job. I guess that's my cue to wrap up on that.
To start wrapping up.
Yeah. So that's basically what we're looking to do. The expedition is going to be online. It's going to be very similar to other journeys and immersions we've done in that way before. We are going to make some fundamental differences. For example, we're only going to keep the group open for this journey for up to 6 weeks afterwards, and then we're going to collapse the group and release the energy. But we're also hoping to be able to make more kind of cohesive wraparound videos of the experience, like mini documentaries, to segment one expedition to another, because we do foresee that there are going to be more expeditions as we look to reclaim time. So I think that's really it.
I'd like to add just a few things. You can see, you can actually watch the video from Zach and talking about the path of the jaguar, because we double checked with our guides upstairs. So it was nice for him to give us a nod of wonderful idea. And so he was saying on this path, we'll be reconnecting heaven and earth, and that it's a very powerful, the energy or the path of the jaguar, it's a very powerful journey of reconnecting with wisdom, with facing transformation, and fire is the activation of the inner fire. So it's only for those that are ready to face the jaguar and to burn away anything that doesn't help anymore. Everything that you're ready to get rid of, that's what the jaguar is going to show us to do.
Right, thank you for that important point. And of course, I posted the link there in the chat for the video to Zach, so please do check that out. Always worth a useful use of your time. So yeah, I mean, I can see some of the comments in the chat box there. And as we move through this next period, I mean, there are many difficult things likely to happen over the next 6 months, and we don't necessarily need to dwell in those places, but we do need to acknowledge and recognize what is going on across the planet. There's a lot of sickness, a lot of illness that is coming to many people, and it seems that the bifurcation is likely to get stronger. So I think that what we are being asked to do, everybody, is to hold a very, very strong space for ourselves, to be very, very present, to be very aligned, to keep checking in on ourselves. We're still having to do our daily energetic cleansings. I do perceive that generally things are a lot easier in that regard for those of us who've done the inner work in comparison to last year. But going into town is still a little bit of a slime fest, and not everybody is in the same crystalline space that some of us are in. So unfortunately, when you carry this much light in your field, you look like a tasty morsel to certain energies. And so just to be aware of that, and just to keep on top of yourself and to keep cleansing. And if something comes up, you feel anxious, you feel out, you feel angry about something, my recommendation is just to take some time away from everything, find a nice tree to sit under, breathe deeply, give it back to the earth, and try to find an eagle's perch perspective on whatever may be coming up for you. So hopefully that's given all of you some ideas moving forward. We will now open up the question and answer space for whatever period.
Let me just finish the last bit that was also very important, and is that the jaguar is also going to work with our skeletal body, with the issues that we have with our body. It's about realigning your body as well through the energy of the jaguar, and reconnecting to the constellations of the felines as well.
Right. So actually on that note, also with the expedition, we're encouraging all of the participants, either with us on the ground or online, wherever you are, to tune into your own part of the grid network. Please don't feel obliged to go and do work you don't know how to do. But if something comes to you and you feel called to go and put an item somewhere on a nodal point, I mean, to be honest, right, Bella, most of the work that we've done with the grid is super sympathetic and really doesn't require us to do an awful lot other than to be in the right place at the right time and to be aware.
It's very organic.
It's very organic.
Yeah.
And for those of you working with stellar nations, particularly, we do work a lot with the codes of the dragons and the felines. The dragons particularly are very connected to the Earth network. And these are all codes that we carry within us, by the way. They're not necessarily something outside of us. They're codes that we carry within us. So some of you may be natural geomancers. Some of you may be more natural healers or a mixture of both. That's fine. Bella, did you want to say something to add to that?
No, I think we're ready for questions. Just to add that the jaguar is going to help us with imbalances in our skeleton body, our skeleton system, the spleen, the tendons, and the nervous system. So it is going to work with all of that part of our body.
Right. And, you know, I've seen a few other channels. Please do put your hands up to ask questions. I'm just going to fill in some time until I see somebody venturing their hand. What was I going to say? So one of the things I am seeing from other channels that I follow is the need to detox still, particularly heavy metals. So really encouraging all of you who haven't done that at all, definitely get onto that ASAP. And even for those of us that have done it, I'm feeling also the need to just do a little mini cleanse, maybe working with dandelion and maybe a few other plants.
We have Maureen. Hi, Maureen. Go ahead.
Hi, it's so great to see everybody and be just back in community again.
Right.
So I just wanted to make a comment that I have been hit with just a tremendous amount of external interference lately, and I'm just wanting to know if light workers are feeling that also. I went and put myself in a really low vibrational trip situation and ended up with COVID for the first time ever. It is evil. So I've hopefully purged my way out of that, but I'm also noticing like smaller interferences trying to come in, and the COVID really drained my life force. So I've been slowly working to rebuild that. And I can definitely feel new, really stellar energies coming in, but it's just been a lot over the last month, I would say. So just kind of more like a check-in, like, am I alone? Is anybody else going through any of this? Okay.
Thank you, Maureen, for sharing. And if anyone would like to respond to that, please do put up their hands. But in the meantime, Maureen, I would like to agree with you. I found the last month to be a little challenging. Not necessarily sure why. More interference psychologically than I've experienced for a little while, trying to mess with my sense of good feeling, particularly about myself. So I think that we have been experiencing some kind of frequency interference. I'm getting frequency interference here with our local firework brigade, who just love to lick off fireworks at any point of the day for random reasons. Yeah, I see Jody nodding her head. She's lived in Mexico, so she knows all about that. I think, according to also what Zach was sharing with us yesterday, there has been a lot of EMF interference. So I think that has been messing a bit with our bodies. I've also experienced a bit of an upset stomach the last few days, which is kind of unusual for me. Hasn't happened for many, many years. So I perceive that also to be fluctuations in frequency. I know that some people have been having difficulty sleeping. But to come back to your point, Maureen, I think that it has been a challenging period. I think that we are having to be, I mean, for me personally, I've been isolated, so I haven't really seen too many people deliberately, actually, because of this very reason, because on the odd occasion when people did come around, nice people, but not necessarily energetically the most clean, I then had to spend half an hour, 45 minutes cleansing myself in a variety of ways afterwards so that I would start to come down energetically. So if we start to get that excess of tiredness, if we suddenly, this is a classic example when we know we've got something in our field, is if we suddenly feel drained and we can't actually keep our head up and we start falling asleep, maybe on the sofa or something. That, in my experience, is normally something wanting to take some of our energy. In this case, I would recommend going to Wormwood, asking Wormwood for help. And for those of you who have a connection to Archangel Michael, I've called on him a lot this year to help cleanse my field.
I also want to remind people of the Rainbow Bridge Detox Brew. So it has horsetail, dandelion, pine needle. There's a bunch of plants. It was about 5 or 6, and they are really good to do every time you have those symptoms, to keep on detoxing, and don't give it any power by calling it that. It's
Yes.
another advice, because it was designed for a reason. So I would say do your detox and start getting your energy back up through activities that will make you feel energized again, to connect with your life force again. But first do the detox, obviously.
Go ahead, Maureen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good to
Jodie,
see you, Maureen.
Yeah, nice to see you. Well, Jodie, I'll come to you in just a second. I just want to also answer some stuff from the comment box and also to Maureen. So, look, this is just our opinion, everybody, and probably going to have to edit this bit out of the YouTube video. But what we understand is that the so-called CV, yes, we try not to give it too much energy by calling it that, because that's partly how it's persisted for so long. We perceive it to be a bioweapon. How it's transmitted between fields, we're still not exactly sure. But if we put this into the context of a bioweapon, I think it makes a lot more sense of how it actually comes into our bodies. Because for anyone who's had that or variants of it will know that it doesn't feel like a normal flu. It's like something, we can say alien almost, has come into our field, something that shouldn't be there. So in that regard, I'm seeing a few people are saying in the comments that they've been suffering from this. Also shingles. Now, this has been a topic of discussion in our group just recently, is that there is a shingles outbreak going on seemingly across many parts of the planet. I've heard lots of people say that they've had this over the last 6 months. My best guess on this is that it's something in the system that is deep rooted, that is being triggered either by sliming, by offered medications, by EMF frequency, or if you're really unlucky, all of the above. And it's bringing up any latent issues that are dormant in the system. So again, I can talk from my own experience here. As I've been doing the physiotherapy for my own healing, what's actually happening is that my physio is bringing up lots of other long-term conditions that were present in my body since childhood that had not got fixed. So yes, a bit painful, and yes, certainly on my body, it's been tough. But what I'm understanding is we're being given an opportunity to cleanse and realign everything. Because if we don't, those places where we're not aligned could start to actually physically hurt. So I hope that answers a little bit more there, Maureen, gives some more perspectives. But always, always remember that there is help. Michael is always on hand. The U-Tree, for those of you who have a connection, is always good to call to. And so are the Artemisias. Jodie, let's hear from you, lovely. Yeah, we got you. You're on radar.
What?
You're on radar. We got you, lovely. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. To respond to Maureen a little bit, and I guess for everybody here that could find this useful, my sense is that with the desperation of the darker forces really ratcheting it up, they're really ratcheting it up. A lot of this is coming through pulsed energy frequencies, 5G, your electronic devices, dirty electricity. It's coming in a pulsed fashion. And it's coming in as an electromagnetic frequency. So aside from all what's going on with the sun and the plasma that's hitting the earth, which is bringing a lot of beneficial stuff, that's enough to kind of throw you off course as you find your body balancing along with the earth, because she's responding in the same way. You've got the darker forces manipulating some of that and riding on that energy and using their own tools. So full disclosure, I did the website councilofone.org. There are techniques on that site. There is an astral clearing and a quad grid. You can grid your house, you can grid yourself, you can grid locations. My suggestion would be to take protection for your body and your environment, office, home, wherever you are, and protect it as much as possible from the EMF and the pulsed frequencies. So do a lot of space clearing and working with those things. You may find some of those techniques helpful. From my point of view, for my personal energetic, what I've been experiencing, and maybe it has to do with the astrology, I've been experiencing tremendous amount of power. I can feel the power coming in. I feel it very, very strongly. So I'm very interested in beginning with this, the path of the jaguar, because I don't know what it is. I'm sitting here polishing my silver jewelry. I've been wearing silver and turquoise like crazy. It's been calling to me. I've been pulling out my old jewelry, polishing it off and go, oh, turquoise, turquoise, silver, silver, and have been thinking of Mayan stuff. So I'm very much, and I'm definitely going to take that. But I think what is being moved into position, and we have to step into our power, because if there is going to be some sort of attempt to hijack our attention and energy on the 15th, we've got to step up and realize it. And anybody around us saying, check it out, this is a hologram, this is not necessarily real, look into your heart, see what you see about it. So this could be an opportunity for mass global check. Everybody pause and stop and get astounded. It's going to be, if it does happen, at any rate, that's my suggestion, is to protect yourself as much as possible from negative pulsed frequencies, from whichever way, tools, etc.
Right.
Now's the time to bring it into play.
Right. Thank you so much, Jodie, for all of that. Absolutely on point. Couldn't agree more. And I think, you know, just because we're taking precautions, everybody, to cleanse our field and take care of ourselves does not mean that we're in a position of fear. I just want to be very clear about that. I certainly am not afraid of anything coming. I know that Bella isn't too, and I'm sure that Jodie isn't in that position. But that's because we take time to cleanse ourselves. And so we don't allow the density or toxicity to build up, which can start to cause the anxious feelings. You know, these things that like to come and take our energy, they do start to whisper a BS in our ears too, and start us down the track of believing all kinds of things. So I want to echo what Jodie has said. If and when anything happens around the 15th, let's just be very, very clear in our discernment about it. And even if other people aren't, well, that's up to them. All we can do is take responsibility for ourselves. So thank you, Jodie, for everything you said. Super looking forward to connecting more with you. I think we're going to be doing more work with Jodie in connecting the grids, and also with Jodie's friend Maya, who we interviewed recently. And if you haven't had a chance to check out that interview that me and Bella did with Maya, she's an amazing lady, channels the being Toph, and has the most incredible library of channelings going back, I think, over 50 years. Mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got another unmuted, folks. Please do check out her channel. We'll post more links in there, but I feel like Maya's probably going to be quite a big part of the path of the Jaguar as well, because I think Toph.
Sorry, I can't. I don't want to stop this call, but I couldn't hear anything you said.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Sue, could you please mute your microphone?
Sorry.
It's
Could
okay.
you use?
Oh, yeah, Sue, you're still on mic, lovely. If you could just hit mute, it's coming through. Does anybody else have any questions around anything that Jodie just said?
Jessica has a comment.
Okay, please go ahead, Jessica. I can't see everybody on screen. Go on, lovely.
Right.
Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I'm slow with the tech. I have a question, and this may or may not be the right time, but I'm new to this calendar. I'm used to the old Mayan calendar. That's the 13 numbers and then the 20 Tzolkin signs. So I'm just wondering, what is the difference? And if we're focused on calendar reform, how do those two merge? Does the format you do with the castles and all that structure, does it merge with the simple sort of old?
Well, the short answer is I made a whole course to explain all of that. But
Okay,
a summary is we take all of the ancient calendars of Mesoamerica, starting with the sacred round, which is the Tzolkin, and then we bring the lunar. So there was a synchronization in 1987, I think, since the harmonic convergence.
Sure.
And now
Yeah.
we use the galactic calendar, which uses the Tzolkin, which is the galactic frequency, plus the 13 moons. So we're connecting both of them, and that's the one we're talking about.
So I didn't do the class, and I will do the class, but I'm okay. You know what? I will do this through email because I can see it's not the moment, but I will delve more. I'll do the class and then check in with you. I'm just still not getting
Okay,
how it all comes together. But thank you for this, guys, and everything you do is just beautiful.
Right, that's that.
Thank you, Jessica. And also, you can follow the Quantum Compass show, where we go little by little. We explain a wave spell, we connect it to the astrology, so it gives you a little bit more information.
And also, just to clarify, Jessica, we are using the 1320 calendar. That's the Tzolkin, the 260-day year, but there's also the 13 moon calendar, which is why we have the day out of the time. They're both synchronized together. That was part of our his work. So we're working with both sets. So just to be clear, I think we're probably talking about the same thing. There are other Mayan calendars, there are Aztec calendars. They're probably not followed by quite so many people, more local groups maybe. Yeah, reclaiming time is something interesting. And also a question that some people have put to me, which I'm also querying, is how much is Western astrology in the tropical format connected to the matrix? And should we be looking at sidereal astrology, perhaps more in alignment with Mayan time? So these are all bigger questions I want to share with all of you. This is, I think, what we're embarking on, everybody, or we certainly want to embark on, is a collective mission where we're all contributing different pieces of the jigsaw together. That's part of what an expedition is. It's not just about what Davyd and Bella say. We're leading the space, but we love the interactions that we've had with all of you on the immersions and journeys before, because together we've all got a piece to contribute. So why not hear all the pieces? It's much more fun that way. So Radha, let's hear from you, lovely.
Namaste. So this was brilliant, and I'm so glad you're so glowing and looking well, Davyd.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, sister.
Thank you both. My question is, it's funny, you must have read my mind, because you just spoke about sidereal, and I do study Vedic astrology. So my question is, in terms of the Mayan calendar and what we're going through, the space weather man, he talks a lot about the solar flares and how you said we are impacted by EMF, and I definitely have had all those symptoms you speak of. But can I just bug your expertise on currently now, from that eclipse cycle in April, to what you could warn us or advise us for this coming October eclipses in terms of EMFs, solar flares, and what space weatherman talks about? Okay.
Bella, do you have anything you wish to say first in answer to that? Or?
Well, one of the things we've discovered is that the eclipses are some of the most powerful moments, and the eclipses were always tracked also by the calendars, the ancient Mayans, which now we're understanding are the galactic Mayans or the high Mayans, thanks to the information from Maya as well. So it's all connected. Right, so the eclipses, we have Mike Andrews' microphone on, if we could please mute it. So the eclipses, we haven't been digging into the coming eclipses, but we've been tracking the ones from last year, and the most important one was the one from April, which helped us jump to the new cuboid, which means that we switch the timelines. So we are on a higher timeline, and most of the density that was blocking us from moving forward is now away. It doesn't mean that everything is gone. Most of the stuff now that we need to deal with is smaller things that are personal, of a personal kind of aspect. So I don't have anything on the future eclipses just yet. Davyd, do you want to share anything on that?
Yeah, so just for the record, I do have some notes on the eclipses. I did make some notes for today's call. So there is an eclipse around the 17th or 18th of September, depending on where you are in the world. There's going to be at 25 degrees and 41 minutes of Pisces. And then there is a second eclipse in that season, which is October the 2nd, which is a new moon solar eclipse at 10 degrees of Libra. So those are the nuts and bolts of it. To answer your question, rather from my own perspective, I think that what we're really looking at mostly with these eclipses and the energy in general for the second half of 24 is a lot of inwards reflection. Now, I'm sure that many of you on this call have been doing nothing but inwards reflection for a number of years. So maybe don't need as much as the collective. However, I would suggest that taking even just a brief pulse on what we might call the muggles and normies, those folks who are still playing catch up in this ascension process, is that they may need to go through a period of fairly intense reflection on why their belief systems have been shattered. I can already see the effects here in the Americas of the recent presidential debate. That, to some of our surprises, has suddenly removed a spell that seemed to be over a lot of the population's eyes about one of the candidates, if not both of the candidates. So I think that we're going to go through a period of these revelations that are going to slowly start to, well, maybe not even slowly, quite quickly, start to shatter people's belief systems about the reality that they live in. I've seen, there's a really cool cartoon someone put together called Dominion. I'd love to, Leslie shared it with me, but it's basically a sort of a 15-minute, you can almost say like a manga cartoon with music, which shows what happens when even the puppeteers pulling the puppet strings of us people start to realize that they're no longer protected, and that the schemes that they were involved in is that there's no protection for them anymore. So we still have to go through that process of all of those people who have maybe not acted in their integrity over the last few years being held accountable. That could also be quite a messy process, depending, and this is a big if, I think, on how much of the collective has made it to the heart space. If we are all in our heart space, we will be able to hold even what we might consider the villains of the piece, but there always needs to be villains in duality. We all agreed to come into this experiment together, even the villains. The villains and the heroes is just two sides of the same coin. And I know that's a very difficult concept for many people to get their heads around, particularly those divided by some of the war situations going on. But to be polarized, to be divided is not to be fifth dimensional, non-dual. And so we do have to look at this situation collectively. First of all, I think it's better to look at it individually, because that's the thing that we know that we can control. But if we live from that place of individual perception and responsibility, then by default, we start to affect the people around us in a positive way. Cassia, I hope I've got your name right there. Please do go ahead, lovely. Cassia or Cassia? We can't hear you, please.
Can you hear me now? No?
We do,
Yes.
yes, we got you.
Oh, good, good. My headphones don't work. Kasia is the
Kasia.
pronunciation. Yeah. I just wanted to speak on the tropical astrology that you mentioned. Like I have been a tropical astrologer for the last 20 years, but I think over the last 2 years, I just started looking deeply into it. And just because it doesn't reflect the sky anymore, it should be called Earth astrology, because it works very well with following the sun and Earth, dance, but it has nothing to do much more with the stars. And astrology is actually a science of following the stars, which actually speaks really well to what Bella and to you are kind of putting forth about reclaiming the time. Because I'm thinking like we are a little bit stuck with the tropical astrology in this hamster wheel. It's like the hedgehog day. It's, you never know when is the age of Aquarius coming. Whereas with sidereal, or there's another one called true sidereal astrology. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's very visual. It's just based on observing the skies. And like sidereal, it's great, but it still has 12 constellations that have 30 degrees. But when you actually look at the sky, the constellations have different sizes. Plus, if we actually follow the constellations on the ecliptic, there is Ophiuchus, Serpent Bearer, 13th constellation. It's not 13th sign. Let's not go there because astrologers get really upset about it. We have 12 zodiac signs, but we have 13 constellations on the ecliptic. And I think it's really worth like looking into it, because like Scorpio and like Ophiuchus, they at the same kind of part of the sky, but it's very fascinating that like Ophiuchus is the healer, is the Asclepius, is the 13th, the horrible 13th, and I think in some way reclaiming that 13th, Bella, I love that you're doing it. I'm like, I'm like giving you credit, of course, but like it's so cool because I've been onto it for the last 2 years as well, and just observing it, finding it in the sky, looking at the sky. I missed it for 17 bloody years being a tropical astrologer. Like you never fucking like taught to look at the sky, you always like in this computer or, so there is something about it. And I think it ties in with this reclamation of time, which you guys doing, that the astrology, we still can use tropical because it's measuring well, but it's perfect. It's perfect, perfectly organized, very symmetrical, time is money type of thing, also connected to this system a lot. There's like, Cosmos is not perfect like that. It's a little bit, it's perfect differently, I think. So I'm glad that you mentioned it.
Thank you for your comments, Kasia. Thank you very much. And I'll tell you what is common about the cycle of Venus and the Tzolkin is mind-blowing. The precision, the accuracy of the 5-pointed star of Venus and the Tzolkin, it's absolutely amazing. the synchronization, the perfection, and we've not been paying attention to that. So I'm going to bring more of that, like the Venus and the Sirius cycle, how perfect it is, and how we've been completely disconnected from all of that. And I think that's part of bringing back the energy of the goddess and us finding that point of balance. And I don't know, it's exciting for me.
And
I hope I
even,
can share
like,
more.
sorry, like even using like all these different systems, we don't have to get rid of tropical or say like, you know, it's horrible. Like it still works for me. Like I love tropical, but to know what actually is happening, you know, this new moon wasn't in Cancer, like it was in the stars of Gemini. Like it's visible. You can go out, look, it's there. Like there's nothing, like that's what it is, you know. But yeah, so it started to really annoy me that like in tropical we can't go out and look at the sky and see what we should be seeing actually. So probably each of us is actually a different star sign, or yeah, we were born under different stars, let's call it like that.
Interesting. And it's the kind of conversation that we can have in this group. We want to move more and more into, okay, let's talk about it. Let's see how we want to keep on moving forward and create our time frames and everything. You know, it's a new beginning, and we can do it together.
Right. Yeah. I mean, thank you so much, Kasia, for sharing that, because I think what's really important, everybody, moving forwards, is that we have an openness to investigate, a curiosity to see what is and what isn't, because we've been served up so much BS for so long that I think we're having to go back to almost to square one again and say, okay, let's start building from the ground up. What is a truth for me? Does the astrology work? Does it not work? So maybe this is an open invitation to everybody who follows astrology, just to start tracking maybe more closely the transits and the energies and see whether they do manifest in your life. I'm like you, Kasia. I follow it. It generally makes sense. But what I'm seeing is that there's only a handful of things that are consistently making sense, like the eclipse portals. We know for sure the eclipses are super important, super powerful. The moon cycle also seems to work. Whether the moon is an artificial construction doesn't necessarily seem to matter too much, because it is part of the earthly cycles. Again, another rabbit hole conversation for another time, also worthy of its own investigation. But this idea of the Western astrology and the sidereal, I know it's super inconvenient for those of us that follow astrology, but if it's not correct, we need to know. And so we can investigate this in our own way. Go ahead, lovely.
Just like last thing, just check this true sidereal astrology, especially Athen Chimenti. I have a YouTube channel as well. I did a like interview with him recently, but he's been like banging on it for years about the different sizes of constellations and how this is a natural, you know, natural cycle because it's visual, like ancient used to do it. You go out, you see the sky. So like just check his work out because he's interesting and he has done a lot of work. There's even like an astrology program you can use using different sizes of constellations. So, you know, like just if anybody's interested. So Athen Chimenti, he's really good.
Thank you, Kasia. Can you, if you have any links to hand, can you pop those in the chat box? And hey, everybody, you know, all of these conversations that we're having here, these are really interesting conversations. I know that many of us really find super interesting, and we do have our own threads, discussion boards in the QPW tribe, in the navigation guide to quantum consciousness that we can use as a research kind of point of reference for all of us. So please do feel free to share in that. I mean, we've kind of alluded to it, and it's going to become more, I think, a general focus for me and Bella moving forwards, but the mission to reclaim time for ourselves, I think, is a big deal. So many of us have not been able to manage our time properly for most of our lives because we live in a Western capitalist system that seeks to utilize us and our energy for its own purposes. And now we want to reclaim time, not just in the way that we're reclaiming it back from the system, but also reclaiming time to a place of coherence, which I think is the more important thing. So we do have another 5 to 10 minutes, guys, before we're going to wrap up for today. So please do put your hands up. In the meantime, Bella, do you have anything you wish to share while I'm scanning the questions here in the box?
Oh, I'd just like to bring a little bit of, well, what Zach shared about the path of the jaguar. And he was giving us the tips of, you know, how we're in the middle of not only the earth is changing, we are changing, the frequency of the planet is changing, the light is changing dramatically. And this is when we do the path of the jaguar and all of this different architecture that is connected to the stars and to nodal points of the planet, it's a way that the ancestors had to bridge this gap. So every time there was a big shift, like every 5,200 years, there was going to be a shift in the frequency, and they knew how to track this. And now that we've come to the one that is 26,000 year cycle, to bridge that gap between our frequency and the new frequency, then those sites are very important and contain lots of keys. But the path of the Jaguar is going to show us how to do that as well within our body, how to realign with the help of those 3 plants. So if you do want to learn more about these, please let us know. And I hope that many of us get to join us, especially those of you that have lots of cosmic codes of the great felines, like I do. So I think we're going to have lots of fun with big cats around Mexico.
Right, and also just to say, for those of you that do follow Stellar Nations or know your natal astrology, anyone who's got anything around 29 degrees of Aries to 1 degree of Taurus is going to have the Andromeda Galaxy as part of the Stellar Nations Antares code, which is being squared currently by Pluto. So that's a big, for those of you that know something of that, it's a big part of the great felines demise in the cosmic story and how the goddess got fragmented and somewhat, I wouldn't say left our realm, but was not as present as she might have been. That is what is being returned this year. Leslie has been talking about it a lot. And for those of us that either have Andromeda Galaxy in our Antares code or have other great feline codes, or even the dragon codes, this is also a big part of this year, is that those of us who had fallen dragon codes, maybe partly why some of us have had body issues this year that's often connected to the dragons. But that the dragons themselves have also had to go through a process of reclaiming their honor because of the great dishonoring that their leader Khan, or our leader Khan, you can say, for those of us that have those dragon codes strongly, he kind of led us down a bad path that we followed obligingly, and now we're getting our own sovereignty, and that reign of terror from the big bad dragon is over. So we're coming to this place of harmony between the cats and the dragons, which is about the masculine and the feminine, about divine will, free will. It's also about the energies of the lands, and it's also about the energy of the goddess. So it's a really, really important part of this year, actually. And again, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about here with the Stellar Nations codes, this is the fixed star cosmology that is really the blueprint of the galactic story, but also it's also our own soul story, which we can tell through our natal birth chart. So in actual fact, it's easier to understand than astrology, and it's the most incredible series of, you could say, archetypal mythological energies from the stars, but it's really also about our own DNA coding. Bella, I feel like you want to share something there.
Yeah, just the final part on that, on the path of the Jaguar. It's about trying, what the Jaguars are stepping up to help us with now is to embody that Jaguar and that strength and show us a new pathway, a new way of being. It's going to show us the gifts, like a bigger level of vitality and vigor, which is what we're needing at the moment in the middle of this transition. So our bodies are going to upgrade through this work that the felines are going to show us. Also, we're going to understand about not only Sirius, but farther out of galaxy, where else are these felines connected to us? Also to reconnect with our frequency of God, goddess vibration, which we have forgotten about. We see the God, goddess outside of us, but it's actually part of the frequency that we can access within ourselves. It's part of our blueprint. Also, it's going to help us open our third eye, the night seer, the shamanic power. So it's going to help us upgrade our third eye power. And also because the felines work together with the God goddess energy, they're also closer to the energy of source. So we're going to access that new frequency that is closer to the energy of God or creation or source energy, whatever you want to call it. So I'm definitely super excited. I see Mike is raising the hand. Hi, Mike.
That's it.
Good to have you here. Go on, Mike.
Hi guys, good to see you all.
Thank you.
I've not got a question, I'm afraid, but I've got two things to mention. One of which is more personal, and the other which I think is collective. So on a personal note, as Davyd knows, my birthday is the 15th of July.
Wow.
So yeah.
Happy birthday, bro. You're holding the space for us all, dude.
Yeah,
that's why he was the main part of the oak immersion.
So for me, that's a bit of a double whammy, because it's the end of the 9th cycle of 7 years for me, and the
Wow.
beginning of the 10th. So my life, I don't know whether others works in the same way, but mine works in 7-year cycles. So I'm 63, and it feels quite a big one, this. I think if you compound that with what you've been saying about the path of the Jaguar, then I'm also a Skywalker.
Oh.
And therefore the pillars of earth and heaven, this is a blessing and a responsibility at the same time, I think, isn't it?
It is.
I'm not fazed by the astrology of the 15th of July. I see Mars as a very positive energy. If you react to it and harness it in the right way, I see the potential for Uranus as change, but in its higher octave as a very positive thing as well. And whilst Algol can be about losing your head, perhaps this is a time for losing the old head and birthing a new head that can take us forward into something really beautiful, going into our next phase of our evolution. So that's my personal bit. On a more collective level, I was sitting here at the beginning of this, asking what this was all about, and I asked a particular divine female entity what this was all about, and I got something which seemed pertinent to me. I guess it may be pertinent to others, and the message that I got was that we're entering the time of compassion. This is the most important time for us to work on compassion. That compassion is love in action, and that that love in action we should think about as compassion for ourselves and compassion for all others. And Davyd's mentioned those who perhaps haven't been seeing what others have seen over the last, particularly the last 5 years, but maybe very much longer. And that's going to be a shock. For everybody who's seen this coming, compassion is the love in action that helps us to hold the vibration and raise the vibration for all others to fall into. And that's the message that just came through. And I thought that was a really beautiful message to give at this time. So I hope it's of value to people, and I felt obliged to share it.
Oh, lovely, Mike. I think it's very on point and a beautiful way to end up the session for today. It's all down to compassion. That's what we came to do. We came to love in action, to learn to love and be loved. And everything else we've talked about, you just need to bring it back to that basic point. Thank you so much, Mike. For those that don't know Mike, he has been part of our tribe for a while, and he was holding amazing healing circles during the time Davyd and I were in Guadalajara during the operation, during the recovery of the operation, and they were super powerful. Thank you so much, Mike. That was absolutely amazing what you did. And Mike is super humble. He always comes and says, oh, I think this may be important. And then it's a super peril that we need to always take into account. So thank you, Mike. We're so, so proud to have you as part of this tribe.
Yeah, thank you, brother, and totally agree with what Bella said. And I'm still in a place of deep gratitude to the healing circles that you organized with your partner Adele, and for quite a few people here on this call. So again, a heartfelt thanks to everybody who participated in those incredibly strong healing circles. They are one of the most powerful healing experiences I've had remotely from somebody else, to be honest. So thank you again so much, brother. And yeah, you know what? I think what Mike has just summed up there perfectly is the idea of how to use potentially combustible energies and catalyze them into something important. So yes, we can say Mars and Uranus has that big bang energy, but we can use big bang energy for big bang outcomes for ourselves. And that, I think, is where we have to be super smart. And from one Skywalker to another, bro, I know that you're going to be doing an amazing job bringing heaven down to earth on that day. And, you know, like you said, Mike, Mars is an incredibly powerful energy. Being Scorpio, having Mars in Scorpio, I know a lot about Mars energy, and if we can handle it properly, then it can be used to catalyze almost anything that we want. Mars is incredibly powerful energy. Please go ahead, bro.
Can I mention just one more thing, actually, because Bella triggered a thought for me. For those in the UK who know Stonehenge, Stonehenge has seemed to be a place over recent years that's lost its energy. But there's a really interesting piece of work that I was reading on Stonehenge by a lady who studied not the outer circle, but the inner circle at Stonehenge. And Bella may be interested to know, since it's such an iconic site and such a powerful historic site in the UK, that the inner circle at Stonehenge perfectly aligns with the five-pointed star of Venus.
Oh, thank you for that one.
Yeah, so
yes.
as we go into this year, who knows whether Stonehenge is going to re-energize as such a powerful node, because the energies will be retained in the earth there. And perhaps it just needs this new year to revitalize that, and something spectacular could happen. You never know.
We can all rewire that circuit for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for that one.
Okay, so we are going to wrap up in just a couple of minutes. And so just to conclude things, again, just reiterating some of what Mike just shared there, you know, the anti-grid, as it's called sometimes, or the matrix, has been in place for a very, very long time, but it's basically disintegrating around us and is going to continue to disintegrate in a number of ways. And I think what is important is that we refocus our attentions not onto what is collapsing, but on what is about to sprout forth. I keep seeing in my visions recently in meditations, lots of little plants sending up sprouts. And that may be because I'm doing a lot of gardening at the moment as part of my rehabilitation, and I've got things growing, which is always something that makes me feel good. But I do feel the new shoots of growth of the new earth coming through. And as we've already said a number of times, we both believe that we're already in the new earth cuboid frequency, but there is a kind of a process of catch up, which is the hashtag forced evolution. As the light comes in, I see it sort of coming in like a wedge shape and forcing any density at the bottom of the barrel up and out for all of us individually, collectively, which is a good thing. It might not always seem like it in the moment, which is where we have to handle our Mars energy a little bit. But if we can really learn to control our emotions, then we cannot any longer be manipulated in the fourth dimensional space by other frequencies. So to add to what Jody was saying earlier, we can use this combination of defining our boundaries, making sure that inside our boundary we're clean, but also making sure that we're not putting our attention into things outside of our boundaries that are, or even situations or groups or even travels or whatever. Just being very, very mindful about where we put our physical selves and most of all, where we put our mental attention. So to finish with what Mike was saying, you know, in the Buddhist world, the right hand of compassion sits in the left hand of wisdom. And how I've come to understand that is really we can only understand compassion at a deep level through direct experience, which is wisdom. So I think that we're all going to need to call on our direct experiences of our own healing journeys and be able to look at our brothers and sisters maybe over the next 6 months who are going through big things and say, it's okay, I get you. Nobody's angry here. Nobody's judging anybody here. We've all made choices and decisions in our life that maybe we need to reflect on and maybe need some assistance with. And as somebody who's had to ask for a lot of help over the last 4 months, sometimes it's okay to ask for help. And maybe we just need to be there, maybe not push our agendas or ideas, but be there for people who might reach out and ask for help at this time, and be in a good enough space ourselves to be able to offer whatever we can with love and compassion. So I'm not going to have the final word. I'm going to pass the mic to the resident goddess in our household, Bella, who's going to wrap up today's call with something appropriate.
I think the call brought us to that, to our heart. So a very big thank you to everybody for being here. And just by being in our heart, we are changing the world and contributing in a huge way. So thank you, everybody, from the bottom of our hearts. And we hope to see you in the next live call. Thank you so much. Great to see you. Thank you.
Ciao, everybody. Till next time.